Hey everybody, Kurt Othmer here. We have released the schedules for the 2018 Clinical Summit coming up. And the schedules, you get to see all the presenters in there, so you've got those. And like last year, you're going to hear these cases 15 minutes each. And then the next following hour, we've got a discussion group. We're going to film one of those discussion groups as it takes place. So you're going to be able to follow that. But what happens between those? When we're on break here at the summit, I've got a whole bunch of video interviews that fill that space. And so you're going to get to follow me as I've gone around the country and talked to some really interesting folks. And mostly what I've done is talked to you, the therapists. And so I've got interviews with Cheryl Heath, Corey Jackson, Teresa Sirios, Stephen Neat, Laura Leidiger, and a whole lot more. I want to tell you especially, I've sat down, actually, I walked around with my mom. We went up in the mountains and we took a camera with us and we went on some hikes and we went down to the beach and we talked about this new stuff that's coming, the new clinical changes in the clinic, which are so exciting. So I asked her about that, and I asked her about how we explain neurofeedback and developments in the field. And so those conversations are going to play each day at lunch. Those conversations with my mom were a whole lot of fun for me, and I think you'll enjoy them as well. I sat down with Matt Fleischman in his beautiful flowers that were blooming in his front patio there in his office. And Matt and I talked about the beginnings of his involvement with us in the early 90s and what he did at that time to really help things flourish there and get neurofeedback going. Today, he's helping some agencies flourish, and he introduced me and introduced sponsors and South Lane Mental Health to neurofeedback, and he introduced me to them. And so I went up there to talk to them. Sponsors is an organization that is working with prisoners, inmates, as they transition to regular life, and they have amazing success rates. When Sponsors is involved and helps them transition, they have amazing statistics, and now they've added neurofeedback, so I sit down and talk to them about the results they're seeing early days and what are they seeing as they include neurofeedback with what they're seeing there. I also talked to Stuart Silberman about prison recidivism because he used to work in prisons, and so we talked a bit about prison recidivism, head injury, chronic pain, trauma, and well, even clients who have odor issues sometimes. So we talked about all of that, and that's my interview with Stuart. Went down to another part of Oregon, met with South Lane Mental Health, and they're just starting to include neurofeedback there as well, which is exciting. And I sat with Barbara Hanna and Susan Leahy. These were two interviews that my mom brought to my attention. Really amazing results from the neurofeedback on sort of what was initially thought to be dementia, Alzheimer's, something along those lines. What turned out to be more along the head injury and a surgery that resulted in an infection, and so really complicated cases. And we talk about the role that neurofeedback played, where it helped, where it didn't, and where it helped both of them. And talked to my buddy David Fly, who just defended his dissertation 2 days after we interviewed. So congratulations to David Fly for successfully defending his dissertation. He's off to take his licensing exam now. And he talked about the work that he and his father have been doing in the Congo. They've been going back many times to work with the PTSD sufferers, the victims there in the Congo, the women. Chatted with Stephen Berquist and my dad. So we did a discussion about, so Stephen Berquist is a wound surgeon, and his interest is, well, what he brought to me is this presentation about wound healing and the brain, and how stress and the brain can powerfully affect wound healing. And I got Siegfried involved, and we all talked about the implications of that with neurofeedback, right? So how does neurofeedback affect stress and potentially wound healing? And what is the neuroimagery around that? I sat down with several moms, two moms in particular, talking about one of an adopted child, another with an autistic child, and another just starting out with neurofeedback. So a few different moms, but two of them really telling their story of some amazing successes that they saw and the struggles that they're seeing. What else is, the expectations ratchet up as the neurofeedback does well. What's next? Chatted with David Winstrom. I almost lost him in the river. Sorry, David. We had a great chat. He comes from trauma work, and we talked about EMDR and how it relates to alpha theta, which I found very interesting to get his take and his perspective. It's a topic I've talked a lot about and I'm very interested in, and he really gives me some insights there, which I really appreciated. I'm going to have interviews for the summit with Hanno Kirk. You know him from the book Restoring the Brain. I'm going to interview Jose Ibarra, the CSUN neurosciences professor. I'm going to interview my dad a bunch, Siegfried. He's going to be in there. Our own Roxana Sassu about what she's seeing in the phone calls and what she's seeing clinically. And all of these interviews are going to be available in the library. So when you are watching the summit, there's going to be a little button below that to go to the library, and you can go watch these recordings. If you want to leave the live event and go watch those recordings, those are available for you to watch. And so you grab those recordings, you can leave the live broadcast and watch the recordings, and then come back to the live broadcast. You know, somebody's not fascinated. That guy on the first morning who talks about Signet, this one, and what's going on in the field and so forth, you know, you want to skip him. You can go skip over and watch some of the stuff from the library and pop back. So if you want to watch something else, you can pop over to the library. All those videos will also appear in the stream. So if you're watching in the live stream during the broadcast, or as it repeats that night, you can watch those. And that'll have all of the live presentations here from the stage and those recordings. And they're all interspersed as the day goes on. And then after the summit ends, you can go back and pick and choose which interviews from the live event, which interviews from the recordings you want to watch in what order, and so you can watch all of that. I hope you will sign up or have signed up, clinicalsummit.com. Sign up for the online event. We are so excited. It is coming up just days away. We will see you there. clinicalsummit.com. I'm Kurt Othmer.